Welcome to The Explainer. I want you to just take a second and think about your day to day. Right now, all across America, millions of people are walking around totally surrounded by glowing notifications, buzzing phones, and these endless, bottomless social media feeds. But if they had a real emergency in the middle of the night, they have absolutely nobody to call. Today, we're diving into a silent, incredibly pervasive epidemic that's hiding right in plain sight, behind our smiles, our selfies, our busy careers, and our crowded cities. And it's an epidemic so powerful and so physically damaging that medical researchers are now actually comparing the impact of modern loneliness to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Just let that sink in for a second. 15 cigarettes a day. We treat smoking as this massive public health crisis, right? We have warning labels, national campaigns, the whole shebang. But what about our profound lack of human connection? The really terrifying part here is that most people don't even realize this emotional famine is happening to them until they are already deep in the middle of it. Which brings us to this wild paradox of our hyper-connected era. A country connected by technology has become emotionally disconnected from itself. I mean, think about it. We have never, in all of human history, had more tools to reach out and speak to each other, yet we've never felt further apart. We are literally swimming in communication, but we are completely starving for actual community. So let's break down this hidden epidemic, then versus now. How exactly did we end up here? Well, you just have to look at this stark, undeniable contrast. Back in the day, belonging was just built right into the architecture of daily life. You had front porches where neighbors actually sat and talked. You had bowling leagues after work, and you made these accidental friends at the local diner. But now we're looking at digital isolation. We've got screens demanding all our attention, lonely apartment buildings that are literally designed for privacy instead of connection, and we curate digital audiences instead of cultivating actual friends. And because of this monumental shift, millions of Americans, especially men, by the way, are now reporting that they have absolutely zero close friends. Not fewer friends, zero. Let's look beneath the surface at the root causes. You know, it is incredibly easy to internalize loneliness, to feel like it's a personal failure. But actually, it's the result of these massive, invisible structural designs. We essentially traded our community for an economic machine that celebrates hyper-productivity above pretty much everything else. We monetized our time, we built these sprawling suburbs designed for cars, which effectively isolated us from any of those organic, accidental run-ins with our neighbors. When our entire system demands that we maximize our output, our income, and our efficiency, we accidentally destroy the very time and energy that we need for belonging. Because let's be real, a friendship doesn't produce a quarterly profit. If we really map it out, there are 5 major forces driving us into this isolation. First, you've got that economic machine we just talked about, leaving us totally exhausted. Second, the social media illusion, where we're busy collecting followers instead of building trust. Third is the collapse of what sociologists call third places, the diners, the libraries, the community centers outside of work and home where people actually used to gather. Fourth is the psychology of survival mode. Years of economic anxiety and cultural division have just made us emotionally guarded. And fifth, the housing and mobility crisis. This forces millions of people to constantly pack up and move for work or cheaper rent, meaning they have to constantly hit the reset button on their social lives. I really want to pause here for a second and just let the psychological weight of this next thought sink in. America created a world where people are constantly seen but rarely deeply known. This hits the nail right on the head. Human beings are biologically wired for tribes. We're wired for eye contact, for physical presence, for touch. We are absolutely not designed to manage hundreds of shallow digital relationships. And when we try to do that, our brains just experience this massive spike in comparison anxiety and profound emotional isolation. Let's put some faces to this isolation. Because these aren't just abstract numbers, right? They represent real people, our neighbors, our kids, maybe even us. Take the young professional. She's 34, working remotely in a major city. She spent years building up her career, and now she actually earns more money than her parents ever did. But she eats dinner alone most nights. Her friendships slowly faded out after college because everyone just got too busy. Texts got delayed, making plans became impossible. So now she's sitting there with hundreds of contacts in her phone, but absolutely no community. It just goes to show that material, financial success does not prevent social bankruptcy. Or consider the elderly American. Think of an 81-year-old widower living down in Florida. He can go entire days without speaking a single word to another human being. His kids live far away, his lifelong friends have passed on, and his mobility is really limited. So his television becomes his only steady companion. As America ages, millions of seniors are walking right into this deafening level of loneliness that our country is simply unprepared to handle. And man, it is hitting our youth incredibly hard too. Look at the teenage boy who's been raised almost entirely in algorithmic environments. He's spending 7 hours a day online. He's in constant communication through gaming and social apps, and yet he experiences zero real emotional intimacy. He struggles immensely to express his feelings in person, he avoids vulnerability, and he's beginning to normalize this emotional isolation as his permanent identity. So let's talk about the true cost of all this. What is the ultimate price tag here? The biological and economic fallout is absolutely staggering. We're seeing surging mental health crises, higher rates of heart disease and sleep disorders that are linked directly to this isolation. In the workplace, we're seeing plunging engagement and massive burnout because disconnected employees simply cannot thrive. And on a broader societal level, we are witnessing the collapse of societal trust. Friendship isn't just a nice-to-have luxury, guys. It is the critical social infrastructure that holds a functioning society together. Which brings us to a really uncomfortable question. What happens when everything becomes transactional? What do we risk losing when people no longer believe in each other? We risk losing our empathy, our ability to cooperate, and ultimately the very foundation of our democracy. Because when people feel completely disconnected from one another, they become so much easier to divide. They become more fearful, more radicalized, and ultimately more hopeless. But how do we fix it? Let's move to rebuilding human connection. Listen, this doesn't have to end in collapse. We can actively rebuild this. And here is the roadmap out of the crisis. On an individual level, we have to start treating friendship as an essential need. Schedule the time, pick up the phone and call instead of just texting, and be the one who's willing to make the first move. On a community level, we absolutely have to rebuild and fund our local third places, the libraries, the parks, the neighborhood events. In the workplace, companies need to foster true belonging. They need to recognize that a lonely worker is a suffering worker. And on a national level, we have to rethink our structures to value human life and well-being over pure, endless economic output. There is this profound truth about human nature hiding inside all of this data. Despite everything, we are not rejecting friendship. We are starving for it. The pain of this modern crisis stems directly from our innate, completely unmet desire to be understood, to belong, and to know that we truly matter to someone else. It hurts precisely because we still care so deeply. They remember who stood beside them when life became difficult. Think about that. In the end, nobody is going to remember how many emails they answered or how perfectly productive they were. They remember the people who showed up. Friendship isn't a luxury. It's one of the very things that makes life survivable. So, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Is America becoming more lonely? And more importantly, who will you reach out to today? If this explainer made you look at the modern world a little differently, please share it. Someone you know might be silently struggling right now, and a simple conversation can literally change their life. Be sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden forces shaping our society. Until next time, stay curious and please stay connected.